Well, folks, we're on to part 3 now, and I gotta say, at this rate, 2022 is gonna suck. Number 5 on this list is our phones. Now, this entry isn't gonna talk about how your phones are secretly trying to kill us, or that they're actually taking all of our info and selling it to people, even though that second one is true. No, this is actually gonna be on the implications of just having a phone around us all the time in general. Cell phones are still a relatively new thing. 20 years ago, not having a phone, it wasn't uncommon. Nowadays, it's pretty much required to have one just to function in our society. But because these things are relatively new inventions and have only become mainstream in the last 2 decades, we don't know about the lasting and damaging impacts that these phones they could potentially be having on us. Some health experts and scientists are worried right now that these phones could come back to haunt us in a few decades. What if these cell phones, even though they seem relatively harmless right now, are actually having a long-term impact on our bodies? Tons of speculation has happened over the years that constant exposure to cell phones could potentially lead to a significant likelihood in cancer. Is it really the healthiest thing to have this electronic thing that is always emitting some sort of wave on our persons at all times? Nobody knows for sure, and the scary thing is that no one will ever know for sure until it just starts to happen. That's right, guys, we're basically the guinea pigs right now, and if these cell phones are actually increasing our risks of life-threatening diseases, then we're not going to know about it until we all start catching those diseases. Now, there isn't anything specific about 2022. This could just as easily materialize itself in 2023 or 2025 or even 2030. But every year that passes by, we'll have a whole nother year of cell phone exposure, increasing the likelihood that a sudden spike in a disease like this occurs. All we can do is pray that this speculation is false, because if the news does come out that cell phones have a direct impact to a cancerous growth, then we're all going to be in big trouble. Number 4 on this list is an American Civil War. It's been over 150 years since the United States of America has seen a civil war. The last one ending in 1865 and laying the foundation for what America is today. That war saw hundreds of thousands of Americans die in brutal fashion. So with that being said, why on earth would anyone want another civil war to take place? Well, typically nobody wants a war to happen, however sometimes there's just no stopping them. The Second American Civil War is a term that some historians are actually using right now to label the state that America is in. People believe that America is in a type of Cold War amongst its people. The two sides in this war are the right-winged political thinkers and the left-winged political thinkers. Since the election of Donald Trump in 2016, the divide in America between these two sides has seemed to grow. This gap has gotten even further with events such as the COVID-19 pandemic, the 2022 electoral race, and then culminating in the closest thing America has seen to a civil war in quite some time, the United States Capitol attack. This was where a large group of Donald Trump supporters attacked the Capitol in protest of the 2022 electoral results and attempted to intervene with the democratic process. Some people thought that this was going to be the incident that launched America into their second civil war, but thankfully that wasn't the case. However, tensions are still high in America, and it does feel that the divide I was speaking about, it hasn't gone anywhere. It's possible that 2022 is the year that we see the United States of America fall back into what would be a disastrous second civil war. Number 3 on this list is self-driving cars. Self-driving cars are something that all big tech companies are working on right now. These major companies are attempting to get these cars on the road and to the public as soon as possible. The thinking is that these cars are to completely revolutionize the roads and will totally phase out a manually driven car. There are still some big complications associated with this though, the biggest one being price. The cars are currently too expensive to be widely afforded by the public if they were to hit the roads. However, we really aren't that far away from seeing this happen. When this does transpire though, there could be a lot of scary complications that go along with it. First off, there's the scary thought that we're actually getting driven by a robot. If the manufacturing of this car is rushed in any way and things aren't done correctly, then this car could drive us all straight to our deaths. The second thing that's scary is how they're gonna function with human drivers on the road. If half the drivers are human and half of them are car-based, how will the cars know to anticipate what the humans are doing? This is something that I'm sure the tech companies are struggling with right now. But the last thing that's scary, and the thing that I'm most worried about when it comes to these cars, is hacking. If these cars are running by themselves, then they will be able to be hacked and remotely controlled. This could widely affect terrorism, as an attack from one of these cars could happen and nobody could even be at the wheel. Theft could also go through the roof. A hacker could simply steal your car from their basement and nobody would be the wiser. They could also drive your car to the scene of a crime and then drive it back, effectively framing you for said crime. The possibilities are honestly endless, and it's one of the reasons that I would be skeptical to hop into one of these things in the early days. I like the premise of self-driving cars, but if they come out in 2022, then your boy might be holding out to get one just a little bit longer. Number 2 on this list is the United States of Europe. Europe isn't the biggest continent in the world, coming in at number 6 out of 7, only beating out Australia in total land area. Although it's smaller in size, its population is very sizable, finishing 3rd as far as continents go. It also has a pretty massive economy for its size, coming in the 3rd spot and accounting for around 25% of the world's wealth. And it's also not a stretch to say that Europe is the happiest place in the world to live. In fact, going by a country-to-country basis, 9 out of the 10 happiest countries in the world are from Europe, the only non-European country being New Zealand, and placing 9th on that list. With all of this being said, none of these numbers really matter because Europe, it isn't a singular country, it's actually a collection of 45 different countries. Now, a lot of these countries have close ties with one another thanks largely to the European Union, but they aren't operating under the same flag and they all have slightly different political systems and rules of law. However, for a while now there have been rumblings about the possibility of Europe banding together, getting every single country that's currently in its continental borders under one flag. This would take a long time to organize, and even though things could start next year, they wouldn't be implemented for quite some time. It also isn't detrimental or violent in nature. The idea of banding together under one flag kind of seems like a good thing. So what's scary about this? Well, the scary thing would be the unknown implications that it has on worldwide politics. Right now, it seems like the United States and China are entering a bit of a Cold War themselves to become the undeniable global power. If Europe banded together under one flag, then they would immediately enter the ring and they would also be winning. This would shake things up like crazy, and who knows how those other 2 countries would respond. Would there be a bidding war to see who could get the affections of Europe the fastest? If that was the case and there was a bidding war, then what would happen to the country that Europe doesn't decide to be close allies with? This United States of Europe could cause a worldwide Cold War and potentially cause these big superpowers to do something drastic. People tend to do silly things when they're scared, and this is just the type of action that might make America or China scared enough to do something silly. I'm certainly not saying that Europe coming under one flag would cause a world war, but crazier things in our lifetimes have happened before. Number 1 on this list is a new COVID variant. In some of our previous videos discussing the scary things to potentially come in 2022, another pandemic has definitely made the list. The sad thing is though, we may not even need another one because at the end of the day, we're still in one. COVID-19 was deemed a pandemic on March 11th of 2020, and now almost 2 years later, it still rages on as a force to be reckoned with. During its time as a pandemic, COVID has infected over 261 million people and claimed the lives of over 5.2 million. The sickness and fatalities aren't the only thing connected with this disease either. In just the year 2020, it was estimated that over 225 million jobs were lost. This pandemic has changed people's lives forever, and everyone has been adversely affected. Now, the one thing that's keeping a lot of people going right now is the belief that we should be coming to the end of all of this and the worst of the pandemic is behind us. That belief, it could be a total fallacy though. Only in the last few weeks has COVID mutated once again into what experts are referring to as the worst variant yet. Omicron was first cited in Southern Africa and is now starting to sweep through those areas. The World Health Organization has labeled this as a variant of concern due to how transmissible it is. The problem with this variant is that there are so many different mutations that we haven't seen before. The vaccines that have currently been administered will teach the cells in your body what a COVID cell is, and then your body will learn how to defeat it. Then, when a COVID cell enters your body will quickly stop it from doing any damage. The problem is that the spike protein on this variant, it looks completely different than the spike protein our bodies are familiar with. This means that our bodies won't recognize this COVID variant, and it's going to be able to move right past the defenses that the the vaccine has given us. It also doesn't help that this variant is missing a membrane protein, which experts say will inherently make this variant more infectious in the first place. Therefore, this variant is far more transmissible and has the potential to make our vaccines completely obsolete. Now, at the time I'm making this video, it's currently unknown how fatal this variant could be, but it's very possible that in 2022, COVID just mutates again. What's to stop COVID from mutating into something that makes our vaccines obsolete and is also far more deadly? If a COVID variant mutated, making our vaccines obsolete, then all of the work that we've done up to this point would go down the drain, and I don't think I need to tell you how dangerous a deadlier virus would be if our vaccines don't work. The sad thing is that a mutation will probably happen. We just need to hope that we're all ready for it. Well, there you have it, guys. That is our list of the top 5 scary predictions for 2022 that might come true, part 3. Please let me know in the comments down below what you thought about this list, and instead of saying what you're most scared for in 2022, what are you most excited for? I think it's important to keep our heads high. Comment that down below. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll catch you next time.